everyone, and welcome. Mr. Warren Hayes here on behalf of Pro Wrestling Illustrated and Bell to Bells, bringing you this interview in our series of wrestlers who have ranked on the 2021 PWI 500 list. And today we are thrilled to be joined today by Saki from DDT Pro Wrestling. Saki, welcome and congratulations on ranking again on the PWI 500 this year.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
And so are we. We're very happy as well. The person lurking in the background, don't worry. He'll be joining us throughout. It's Mr. Haku, who will be translating my questions, as you can see, as we move along. Hello, Mr. Haku.
Thanks for having me back. Always good to be on.
It's always a pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you for being here. So, Saki, we'll start off. I want to ask you, how things have been going. The entire world was covered in the coronavirus, right? How have you been holding up throughout the entire coronavirus era?
どんな感じですか？
あれですよね。いろいろいかがですかみたいな。
そう。
そのお客さんの数が減ったりとか、あと会場のリング1試合ずつ消毒するようになったりとか、選手として戦ってる上でリングの上から見える景色とかも変わったけど、その感染対策とか気をつけつつ変わらずプロレスのファンのために、世界中の人のためにやることは変わらないですかね。
So, from the view from the ring is different because, smaller capacity, fans can't make noise. We have to disinfect between like every other match. So in that sense, the experience is a bit different, but it doesn't change her motivation and goal to bring pro wrestling to the fans, not just in the venues, but to, all over the world. So in that sense, that part has not changed at all.
And it hasn't changed very much because despite the restrictions everywhere, Saki, you've had a busy year, right? You've wrestled in over 70 matches. In fact, Sakisama has gained a pretty huge fan base in 2021 as well. How do you remain, healthy and training to be so dominant with such a busy year?
まず、先様の話があったので、まずそれをちょっとこうして、そのコロナに関わらずすごい忙しかったし、で、ここに人気を
そうですね。まず先に言っときたいのは、よく間違えられるんですけど、サキ様と私赤いサキは別人で、よく似てるって言われるんですけど、私あんなに綺麗じゃないです。
So first things first, to clear things up, she gets it a lot. You mentioned Sakisama. Many people often mistake her for Sakisama, but completely different people. And Saki here says, people say they look alike, but Saki says, I am not half as beautiful as Sakisama is.
I apologize. Very easy to mix them both up. I'm very, very sorry. Correct. Yes. I stand corrected.
Okay. Thank you.
で、それを踏まえて、忙しいスケジュールに頑張って。
やっぱこういうコロナ禍になって、特に自分にとって変わったなと思うことが、やっぱその会場で直接お客さんと触れ合うことが減ったり、イベントとかもできなくなったり、直接会うことがなくなりました。けど、その代わりにリモートサイン会とか、そのネットの環境、プロレスの DDT の中でおいてのネットの環境とかが良くなったので、今まで会場でしか会えなかったお客さん以外にも、その海外とか世界の方と触れ合えるようになって、それがまた一つ、なんかこんなに応援してくれてる、見てくれてる人がいるんだっていうのは、一つのモチベーションだったりします。で、真面目なこと言うと、怪我する前にケアすること。
So, with COVID, sure, she's had less opportunities to meet fans, fewer shows, fewer seats, etc. But that the entire Corona situation has sort of kickstarted an initiative inside of DDT to go more online, have online shows without an audience in a studio, or have online merch sessions, autograph sessions,
Sure.
etc. And she's realized that there's so many more people out there that are supporting what we do. And that in itself has become a source of motivation for her to get her, going through these difficult times. And it also in general, her regarding how to get through a tough schedule, her basic philosophy is to take care of her body before she gets injured.
Sure.
もう一個は美しいものが好きなので、美しいものを見て刺激を受けたら、なんかそれがこう自分にとって一つのなんかアイデアだったり気づきになるので、それを試合で発散するのも自分のストレス発散なので、なんか試合にはつながってる気がします。
So, and then there's also what she does is as stress management, he likes to go and look at beautiful things.
Okay.
That gives her motivation, and it also becomes input for her to process and then output in the ring in some different form.
What would be these beautiful things that Saki likes to go look at? What do you like to go look at?
例えば、芸術だったり美術館とかも一人で行くのも好きですし、なんかミュージカルとか見るのも好きだし、なんかそれが一つの自然、風景だったりとか、自分がなんか綺麗ってこうなんか衝撃だったり刺激受ける、そういう生のライブで受けるものがやっぱ。
Anything that she can see in person that stimulates her, whether it be a museum, for example, she would go look at artwork, or she would go watch a musical or some kind of live theatrical performance, or she would just go out into nature and just watch the scenery, anything that gives her creative stimulus.
Sure. And a good change of pace from being in a wrestling ring, no doubt. Just going beyond everything that you usually do when you wrestle. That's fantastic. Saki, a vast majority of your matches over the past year, and really your entire career, have been tag team matches. And though you've seen plenty of success in singles action, do you prefer tag team matches over singles?
タッグの方が好きなんですかね。今までの多分対戦成績見てると、単純にタッグの試合の方が多い中で、好きだからそうなのか。
いや、単純に DDT は人数が多いから、シングルマッチ自体もあんまりやんないと思います。でも自分は格闘技、ちっちゃい頃から格闘技しか知らなくて、主にボクシングしか知らなくて、タッグマッチっていうのはプロレスにしかないんで、自分最初それを見た時びっくりして衝撃だったんで、このプロレスにしかないこの文化は好きは好きです。ただ、シングルはシングルの刺激だったり、対戦相手もだし、自分とも戦わなくちゃいけないから、どっちの方が好きとかはないです。
Well, she doesn't have a preference. She likes them both. Her father is a very famous professional boxer, and she grew up in a family where there was lots of martial arts, which is predominantly one-on-one. So when she first saw pro wrestling, she was stunned and astonished by the concept of a tag match.
Okay.
So she finds that very unique to pro wrestling and very interesting. So she likes that. But then, of course, there's the allure of a one-on-one fight in a singles match. So it's more because DDT has such a full roster that just single matches in general are hard to come by. So that's probably the main reason why she's in more tag matches, as is the case for all of the other wrestlers in DDT.
Well, there are quite a lot of wrestlers in DDT. In fact, Saki, you are in a faction in DDT, Eruption, right? Dominant force in the company. You've won the KOD 6-man tag team championships. And you're the only woman in the faction. How is the chemistry between the members of Eruption, and does that help? Do you have is it this good chemistry that helps you stay so dominant in DDT?
そのリアクションが強い理由っていうのは、そのこのメンバーのそのリアクションの関係性が良好だからですかっていう、あるいはそこがもうちょっと変わると何かもうちょっと違うようになるとかそういうのはありますかっていう。唯一の女性であるっていうことも踏まえて。
そうですね。なんかその自分が DDT っていう男性だけの団体で女子一人っていうのは、むしろそこからデビューしたから、自分が女とかみんなが男だとかあんまり意識してなくて、それが当然で育ったので、でイラプションに関しては初めて DDT でちゃんと正規のユニットを組んで、まあ、坂口さんは自分のお師匠様、で樋口君はまあ一番近い後輩っていうのもありますけど、あの2人は結構クールで寡黙、でなんか日本の昔からの大和魂みたいなのを持ってる人に私っていう新しいなんてスパイスっていうか、交わることでなんか一つの形、だったり逆にああいうなんか大和魂みたいな、日本男児みたいな人に私女性が入ることで、なんか一つの新しい形が見えるんじゃないかなって思います。
So, she's not just the only female member in Eruption. She's the only female on the DDT roster. That's how she debuted, and that's all she knows. So, you know, being the only female in Eruption or DDT really doesn't faze her. It doesn't, you know, that's the norm for her, first of all. And having said that, Sakaguchi is Akai's coach / mentor / master in martial arts. And then Higuchi is a very, the careers of Akai and Higuchi are very close. So they get along very well. Having said that, Sakaguchi and Higuchi are very quiet. They're not very flamboyant. They're very samurai-like, you know, traditional Japanese mentality of, you know, action and less words. So by having Akai join that faction creates a chemistry that, you know, brings something out of those two, and, you know, it catches the eyes of the fans more. So there is a role that, you know, she plays uniquely in that unit. So she believes it's, you know, a good balance that works out very well.
That's very interesting. And it kind of leads me into this next question here, Saki, because as you mentioned, you know, you're the only woman on the DDT roster. So you're wrestling men mostly. You're taking part in intergender matches, which is interesting because we don't see a lot of intergender wrestling and, you know, all that much about in certain parts of Japanese wrestling. Does that feel, how does it feel to you to be so just in intergender wrestling in general? And what are your thoughts on intergender wrestling?
反対派みたいな時々議論したりしてたり、で実際やってみてどんなもんですか、で自分はそのミックスマッチっていうものに対して何かこう考えはあるかっていう。
本当にさっき言った通りデビューからミックスドマッチだったんで、なんかもうそれぞれの個性としか思ってなくて、あんまり性別っていうことをめちゃめちゃ意識はしてなかったので、人に言われて、あ、そうだ、私性別は女性だったって言われて思い出すぐらいで、もうね、性別なんて見る側の受け取り方の、ね、見た目でしかないじゃないですか。だから別にね、身長私より男性でも低い方もいるし、私より細い方もいるし、だからあんまりそこは本当それぞれのその選手の見た目だったり、形だったりパワーだったり、強さのなんかこうバロメーターとかいろんなこの星、格闘技とかのこういうゲームとかのあれが変わるだけで、そこはあんまり意識してないんで、デビューした時とか 1,2 年2年目とかだったらミックスドマッチもちゃんと女性バランスよく入ってたけど、今もう一人だけとか入ってるんで、 本当、まあ、言ったら夢を見せるお仕事なので、そのストリートファイターとかでチュンリー対、ね、ケンとかリュウ戦っても何も思わないじゃないですか。チュンリーの綺麗な技で勝ってくれみたいな。だから別にそれを人間がやってるだけで、まあ叶わなければ負けるし、力的に頭的にも勝つときは勝つし、そこをそんなあんまり意識はしてないです。
So again, she debuted in an intergender match, so that's the norm for her. So, you know, she doesn't treat it as anything special. And, you know, her being her size, sometimes she's taller than the men she wrestles. Sometimes she can be just, you know, bigger in general. And if you had like, you know, in like a video game, there would be a chart that says, you know, speed 8, power 9, agility. So it's just, you know, if you translate each person's skills into a chart like that, you know, gender really doesn't matter. And, you know, sometimes she will excel in certain areas than men. So, you know, it really doesn't feel different for her. And then in the beginning, the company used to say, okay, this is an intergender match. So if Akai would be on one team, there would be a female on another team. But, you know, after a while, they were like, oh, she's just one of us. It doesn't really matter. So, you know, she would just be the only woman in the match, period.
There you go.
Very often. So that's, yeah, so for her, it's just what it is. And
business
it's
as
in
usual.
The eye of the beholder, right? And for example, the example she gave was that if you're playing Street Fighter, the video game,
yes,
right? The Chun-Li, the Chinese girl, the character comes out and she fights other men, but you're not sitting there thinking, wow, this is intergender, or you know, this, you know, she shouldn't win, or it's just what it is. So for her, you know, that's sort of like the mindset when she goes into intergender matches.
Sure, absolutely. It's a business as usual type of situation. Saki, do you feel that your height advantage is an advantage when fighting the other men on the roster?
やっぱり身長が高いというのは、その男性と試合する時でもやっぱりアドバンテージになってると思いますか？
だからまあ身長が高い分優位な点ももちろんあって、でも他のミックスドマッチに比べると、まあミックスドマッチってものをね、あんまり意識してないですけど、あるってことにするのであれば、そこら辺よりは身長がある分優位なのかなと思います。ただ自分は身長高いけど太さとかごつさとかはあんまりないんで、そういうパワーでは勝てないこととかがあるんで、近づかれる前に蹴っ飛ばす。
So again, you know, she's never been anybody else. So her being tall, she can't compare to being short.
Sure.
But she does feel that, you know, if she sits back and thinks about the fact that, you know, she's having intergender matches with men, she, you know, if she sits and think about it, she realizes that, yeah, it is an advantage compared to if she were short. But having said that, she is tall, but she's not very thick. So power-wise, she has a disadvantage. So she uses her long reach. And her strategy is to basically kick the other person in the face before they come, you know, a certain distance.
Fair enough. That's fine. You know, when she did this, you know, when Saki did this, I thought she was going to tell us that because of all the Street Fighter talk that she was doing Hadoukens, you know, on the ring. The big boot, yes. Last year, Saki, you had one of your most memorable matches to date when you faced Miko Satomura in the first ever all-women's main event for DDT. How did that moment feel for you? How did you feel in that moment?
あれはどんな気分ですか？
なんかその里村さん選手に初めて挑戦したのが、まあ何回かあったんですけど、その前でも印象に残ってるのが、千女さんが6人タッグのベルト取った時に、自分がパートナーもいないのに他団体に流出してるの見てられへんねんって言って乗り込んだ時 自分が足震えてるのが分かったんですよ。で、リング上で自分の足が震えて、里村さんもちょっと揺れてで、そう揺れてて緊張はしたんですけど、やっぱその時を思い出しました。その時の里村さんのもう曲がりもしないまっすぐ、私のどこ見てんのみたいな、なんか命を見られてるみたいな感じがして、なんかでね、なんか里村さんって身長も本当はちっちゃいし、キュートな方だけど、もうシングルで対戦して入場される時、もう何倍のオーラと圧を感じて、なんか全部相手の何かを受け止めて引き出して、それでも勝ってやるよって最強やんって思ったのと、自分がそんなこと試合中考えちゃいけないんですけど、私の目指しているところが、まあ、里村さんとは違うルートかもしれないけど、強いって美しいことだなって改めて試合してる最中に感じました、里村選手は。
Okay, so they faced in the past, and one thing that she remembers strongly is when Meiko Satomura and her promotion Sendai Girls were the KOD six-man tag champions. Saki could not stand the fact that a DDT belt was being held by an outside promotion, so she went out and laid down a challenge.
Good.
When she still didn't even have partners. She said she'll find partners later and out and challenge, but her legs were shaking so much that the ring actually, it's bouncy. So it transferred to Satomura, and she saw Satomura bouncing up and down across the ring. That's how much she was shaking, right? So
yeah, that must have been quite a sight.
Yeah, Satomura is shorter, and she's a very charming woman. But when she comes into the ring, for the aura that she exudes, that she oozes out, makes her look so much bigger. So, and she would stare right through you. It's as if, just into your own existence itself, just, past the superficial.
Sure.
So, it was very scary to fight her in that singles match. But at the same time, she was so good and so strong, and she would draw the best out of you and yet overcome you in the end. And her Saki Akai's ideal in wrestling, one of them is that strength is beauty and beauty is strength. That's one of her mottos. But watching, she says she shouldn't have felt that way during the match, but just watching Satomura being so strong made her, think how beautiful this woman is. Right. So that was the lasting impression she has from that match.
強さって美しいんだわって思ったら、ブラーンってやる。
Right. So right when she thought, oh, being strong is so beautiful, then, Satomura immediately knocked her out with the axe kick and finished her.
Well, it sounds fair. Well, that's fantastic. And, of course, Satomura is one of many people, Saki, that you fought. Aja Kong, Ryo Mizunami, Yamashita, Asuka as well, that we know as well here as Veni. Many of these women have had and have wrestled in the United States, in North America. You yourself wrestled a few years ago in the United States, but I'd like to know, would you like to return and wrestle in North America?
アメリカ、過去に入っていろんな人がアメリカに今いますけど、赤井さんも2年前にニューヨークで試合しましたけど、どうですか？アメリカ帰ってきたくないですか？
アメリカ行きたくないですか？
試合したくないですか？
はい。アメリカで海外で試合したことあるのってアメリカと台湾だったんですけど、やっぱ海外で試合、アメリカとかすると、日本だともう私のことをすでに知ってる人とか、あともともとモデルタレントやってるとか、父が赤井秀和とか、なんか結構そういう目でまず見てもらうことが多いんですけど、アメリカとかで試合した時はもうそんなんね、海外の方からしたらどうでもいいじゃないですか。本当にその目の前の自分のパフォーマンスだったり試合 とかで全部を判断されるから、それはすごい新鮮で、なんかその新しい自分というか、なんか全部そこの自分勝負っていうのが逆に嬉しくて、それはやりやすかったし、また、行きたいっていう気持ちはすごくあります。
Definitely, because in Japan, for better or for worse, she's known. Her father is a famous boxer. She's a model. People have seen her on TV. So when she goes out there in the ring, people have a preconception of who she is.
Right.
But when she goes to she's wrestled in the U.S. and in Taiwan when it comes to overseas. But whenever she does that, she has to win the fans over from scratch. They don't know her. Everything that they take away is what she puts out in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And to her, she finds that very refreshing. She likes that challenge. So definitely she does want to go back to the US to have
That's
matches.
fantastic.
アメリカのなんか会場ってでっかいなんていうのモニターみたいなとこからこう入ってくるってイメージがね、私は好きな会場よく聞かれるんですけど、条件が照明と音楽とモニターがでかいところが好きだから、アメリカのああいう会場でチクタク言うて入場したいっていうのはあります。
So when people ask her what her favorite venue is, she always says a big Tron, blasting speakers, and bright lights. So in that sense, the US definitely has one up over Japan. So
yeah, for sure.
She wants that experience of literally walking out of a Tron. Because we don't have
the long walk.
Yes. And just like coming out from the monitor itself is something, she really wants to do.
Right. I mean, coming out, behind the stands at Corrigan Hall is fun and all, but it's not the same thing.
So if anyone wants to send booking requests over to Saki Akai, remember those 3 points: big Tron, bright lights, and blasting speakers.
That's all you need. That's all you need. You got Saki over on your end. Saki, just as we wrap this up, I want again, congratulations for ranking on the PWI 500 again this year. What should we expect from you in the upcoming year? Are you hungry for some singles titles in DDT? Tell us what your goals are.
改めて、2度目、2年連続で入賞おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
次、赤井さんは何を求めていくのか、どういったものを狙っているのか、計画しているのか、何かそういうので教えていただけることはありますか？
なんか最近ね、その男性の中で女性が戦っていくことがなんかプロレスだけじゃなくて、なんか苦しかったり厳しいっていう人を感じてる人が私の試合見て、なんか自分の気持ちを乗っけて「たきちゃん頑張れ」って思ってくれる人結構いるっていうのを知って、なんかそういう人たちの味方になりたいっていうのと、その強い肉体的な強い弱いはもちろんあるんですけど、そういう性的なものを取っていきたいなっていうのはあります。取っ払っていきたい。それでね、強い、勝つ負けるっていうのも自分自身の問題なので、女性には女性にしかない強さって絶対あると思うし、見せ方としてもしなやかさとか、それこそ男性にしか男性にはできない見せ方があると思います。で、だからといって男性がじゃあ美しくないかって言ったらそうじゃなくて、それぞれ人それぞれのそれも個性としてこう取ってもらって、一つのまた面白い試合、面白い大会を面白い団体にしていきたいなっていうのがあります。で、一回切った方がいいですか？
そうですね。So, she recently found out that a certain fan who used to be uncomfortable watching intergender wrestling, becoming a big fan of Akai and like cheering for her to go beat up on the men, right?
Good, okay.
So she believes that there's, a style or a way of fighting that can, only be done by women, as is just like there's a style that can only be, done by men. But, she wants to champion that diversity, especially because DDT is so full of diversity in many ways, not just in gender, right? The match styles or age, or, we have 13-year-olds wrestling, we have 60-year-olds wrestling. So, she really likes that style that DDT presents. So she wants to be a part of that and, carry a certain section of that on her own shoulders.
Sure.
And, はい。
で、あとこのコロナ禍になって、世界中がパニックで大変なことだらけだけど、唯一良かったことを見つけるとすれば、海外とか世界中のファンの方と、距離が近くなれたことがハッピーなことかなって思います。で、ステイホームでネット環境がすごい近くなることが皆さん増えたと思うので、なんかその中で全く触れてこなかったプロレスっていうまず文化を知ってほしいなって思うので、なんかやっぱ昔のプロレスのイメージのままで止まってる人とかにそういうネットとかの海の中でなんかこれプロレスラーみたいな、こう見てみようかなって一つの何か一人でもプロレスの沼にはまる人を増やしていきたい。
So, the COVID is awful and, it's a burden on everybody's life. But if she were to find a silver lining, is that she realized that she is so much closer to international fans and that so many people are watching wrestling. So she would like to do what she can to have more fans discover or rediscover wrestling. Just finding someone fighting online is just so much easier now. And an old fan might look at wrestling and say, wow, these are wrestlers too. And what is this wrestling match? It's so different from what I used to know.
Sure.
So she would like to play her role in bringing those fans into wrestling and making them become hardcore nerds of wrestling.
I like it. That's fun. Just like all of us right here and watching right now. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Saki, thank you very much for joining me, for taking the time out of your day. Where can people, if people want to make sure that they don't miss a minute of Saki, where can they find you on social media?
赤井さんの、やることとか、そういったもの、画像とか動画出てくるものを、見逃さないためには、ソーシャルメディアとかは、どこでフォローすればいいですか？
Twitter and Instagram と、Twitter と Instagram と、あと最近やってるのは、海外の方知ってるかわかんないですけど、ビゴライブっていうのやってるんですよ。わかんないか、そういうなんか配信とかはやってます。
She does, some domestic live streams that are, Japanese services, but mainly her social media activities are on Twitter and Instagram.
Fantastic.
So, maybe if you can include that in your show notes.
We will absolutely add the links to the description of this video so that people can follow Saki on Twitter and Instagram as well. Saki, congratulations again. And thank you very much for joining me today.
こちらこそありがとうございます。もっとDDT とか私を載せてください。
More coverage on Saki Akai and DDT, please.
Count on it. Count on it. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for watching as well. Right here, this interview that we have, we'll have more upcoming as well. But thank you all. You know what to do in the meantime. Like, subscribe, all that junk. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. And we'll see you next time.